So we can switch on our microphone and our cameras, yes. Hello, everyone. Those who are joining us on on the webinar, and those ones are watching us on YouTube. Thank you very much for joining us as we have this conversation. We have 4 abled panelists. Job is going to be joining us in a bit. So thank you all for joining us. And we're going to have a very interesting conversation about online child protection. So I'm going to let my panelists introduce themselves and what they do and where they're from, because they are from different parts of the world. So we start with Holly.
Hi, I'm Holly Ann from Perth, Western Australia. I have a company called Safe for Kids that teaches protective education to kids all over Australia, particularly in remote Aboriginal communities across Australia.
Michael? Go on, Michael.
Okay, can you hear me? Yes, so I'm Michael. I work with an organization called CISEMA. CISEMA is a local or is a national NGO here in Tanzania. So I am from Tanzania. And we also run the National Child Helpline, which is a very essential and important service for children, especially during this pandemic that has just hit the world so hard. So we are open 24 hours trying to serve the general public and especially children in especially issues to do with mental health and psychosocial support during this coronavirus pandemic. So I'm glad to be here, and thank you very much, Jenny, for hosting and for having us. Looking forward to a very interesting discussion. Karibuni Tanzania.
Asante sana, Michael. Evelyn.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Oh, so my name is Evelyn Casina. I run a business called EveMinute, and through EveMinute, we have a program called WizKids Africa. And what we do at WizKids Africa is to train children on digital literacy and online safety. So we also try and ensure that the children that we teach go out to the community and reach out to children who are suffering with autism. So that is our outreach towards the community. Yeah.
Job, you have to switch on your microphone and your camera. We can't see you, Job.
Hey, good afternoon, team.
Afternoon, we can't see you. Please
Good afternoon.
We are working from home. Some of us are working from some corners that we don't want to see.
Job, don't hide yourself.
That is me.
That's not fair.
Hi. No, it's not fair. You can't see me.
Mike. Yes, how are you? How have you been? I missed you.
I miss you too, people. Yeah, thank you. My name is Job Osere. I work with TDH, that is Terdes Homes, Netherlands, as programs coordinator. We run a number of programs within our space, and one of the things I think we are going to discuss is about the online child sexual exploitation. So glad to be here and hope we are going to have a fruitful engagement. Thank you, team.
Thank you. I would ask you all of us to mute ourselves so that you can hear each other. So thank you so much for joining. For one of the reasons that we are holding this conversation is earlier this week we were holding a similar thing, and then we were Zoom bombed, which was not a good thing. And it was shocking for us, especially those of us who work in this space, and we think that protectors and we could actually get attacked ourselves. So, and that's why we needed. But I'm going to start with Evelyn. I want us to start with what are the opportunities, because we have a lot of 1.7 million children at home right now. they are not going to school all over the world because of the crisis. So what are the opportunities available for children to advance themselves? Because as much as we're talking about online, there's opportunities. Can we start with the good or the good side of the net? Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that also is important to add onto what we are having the discussion right now is Zoom itself, the platform we are currently using. In December had a population of 10 million, and by the end of last month, which is March, they had 200 million users online. So already that is a big opportunity presenting itself in terms of the digital platforms that are available to us. But just to look at a few platforms that children can actually take advantage of in terms of even learning, because right now the pandemic has made parents become co-facilitators to the teachers in school, is we have quite a number of opportunities online. Our children now can start learning how to type, which is something that we think is not an essential service. It is actually very essential. And as young as they can get onto a computer, say from the age of 5, they can start learning how to type. And secure sites for typing would be like typing.com, which is very good. Children can start learning grammar. They can start learning how to read, to do puzzles. One of the few things that we really take for granted also is do your own stuff, DIYs. I think you people know what DIYs are. And a good platform like Pinterest is a place where you can showcase, people are showcasing what they can do. You can actually do your stuff and showcase also for other people to check what you're doing. Good and secure platforms that I am encouraging parents to use at the moment are platforms like Khan Academy. Khan Academy was developed by a group of homeschoolers, people who are on transit all the time. They felt that they needed their children to continue learning and experiencing education as they're on transit. So that is a very good opportunity for parents to plug into. Oxford All, where from as early as 4 years, children are able to read, write, and learn. Our own, I'm from Kenya, so our own country, and I think maybe Tanzania and Australia can also tell us what they're doing. But our own country, the Ministry of Education is using the curriculum of developers. They have set up a platform where children can access information, which is a good thing. And then children can start learning how to code, because that's where the world is going for them right now. So those are just a few opportunities that have presented themselves in this particular moment. Yes.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. So Job and Holly, I want you to tackle this question. I'll start with Holly to give us like a global outlook of like online child protection. What is this that we are seeing? Why have we seen an increase in abuse in the last, as Evelyn has said, there's been an increase in usage. Facebook reports, someone from Facebook will be going to be joining us later. Facebook has just reported, I think 2-3 days ago, that they have seen double use of their platforms. And you know, they're the biggest. WhatsApp, Facebook, and Instagram. WhatsApp has become #1 place to get misinformation. Instagram, people are using Instagram for all sorts of stuff, from doing storytelling to doing parties to doing concerts, but also for children being abused. So Holly, I read you a very horrific story from LinkedIn, and I want you just to, from there, we start that discussion on online. So and then Job, you can jump in and give us like more of a contextualized African kind of form, contextualization of online. What are these issues that we are seeing right now because of this?
Thank you. The situation that I had that I posted on LinkedIn was somebody tagged me into a child exploitation material. So what happened was just somebody tagged in the FBI, the Center for Missing and Exploited Children, and Safe for Kids, which is my company, into this horrendous video of 2 children under the age of 4 being abused by an adult. And I was so shocked. You know, I talk to children about this all the time, and yet all the training that I've had went out of the window when it actually happened to me. So I did have the foresight to take a screenshot. It was on Instagram, so of their Instagram page. But unfortunately, I didn't take a screenshot of the person that tagged me in. So what happened was I reported it to our federal police here in Australia, who got back to me 12 hours later to say that it had been reported internationally, that it was an overseas video, so the Australian police couldn't do anything about it, but that it would be followed up, and that I should have actually reported it to Instagram. Now, to be honest, I didn't report it to Instagram because I've had so many colleagues report things to either Instagram or Facebook, and then they get back a generic, or this doesn't, you know, this is not against our policy, and things like that. So I did the wrong thing there. But, you know, we need to talk to young people about what to do if they do see explicit material. Here in Australia, I talk to kids about pornography from the age of 6. And when I say that, people are absolutely, you know, parents are flabbergasted that how dare you, you know, talk to my kid about pornography at 6. I call them either private pictures or private movies. I don't call it pornography with children under 10. And I found that I needed to help parents have these conversations. So I wrote 2 children's books to help parents have that conversation about what to do if you see either horror, private pictures or private movies, or violence, because I'm finding, especially here in Australia, the app TikTok is huge. I don't know if you're all finding the same thing in your countries. TikTok, every child from 6 upwards in remote Aboriginal communities that I work in is on TikTok. And just recently I was in a community and I had a child who was 10 say, oh, Miss Holly, what if the older kids are videoing the younger kids with no clothes on and putting it on TikTok? So that's obviously happening because you just don't come up with that hypothetically. So in Australia, Instagram and TikTok are the 2 platforms that children are either being groomed and also seeing stuff. And the other thing is through gaming apps like Discord, people are grooming children when they're playing Fortnite and games like that.
Thank you, Holly. Job, I want you to give us numbers. You guys have done a research about online child abuse in Kenya, and I'm sure you guys are involved in another larger study. So are you able to give us like the numbers? And please go into definition of the different types of online sexual abuse. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. I think let me start from where you left. We've done a number of, I didn't have projected, but I would want to talk about maybe from the research that we've done, there are a number of sites that we've identified that are commonly used, for example, in Kenya. Number 1 would be Facebook. WhatsApp also being used among the youth, among children very much. Then it's also followed by Instagram, which is also gaining popularity among the children. And so from our research, it mentioned, we're also asking like, how many times are you visiting some of the sites? What are the reasons why you visit the site? So there are an array of reasons why children visit these sites. Number 2, why are we seeing the increase? You ask something, why are we seeing the increase? Number 1, I will talk about now that children are at home because of the current situation. Then number 1, there is easy access. Everything, children are very easily accessing internet or accessing phones in the house, be it their phones, be it the sisters or siblings' phones, be it the parent phones. Number 2, there's a kind of a permission now to look at it like a permission to access the internet. Due to the fact that now learning is taken up into technology level, or the learning is being delivered online, then there's kind of an easy or permission now to give children access to internet. Then number 3, unmonitored use of this internet. Most of the parents are not monitoring. They assume that children are actually actively involved in the learning platforms. But sometimes if it's not monitored, then this gives the children an avenue of exploring and going out within the space that they're supposed to be working on. Number 4, why is it easy access is that the internet, parents now, because children are at home, then they give children phones to keep them busy. So it's kind of giving the children a phone for parenting. Phone is parenting the children. And this was very much evident in our survey that when we ask children what avenue are you using to access the internet, higher number were talking about they're using their phone, parents' gadgets to access the internet. So that is also an reason why there's that increase. And you just mentioned about the Facebook indicative data on the number of children who are on Facebook during this period that they've been at home. And this is just because of that kind of access to the internet. Coming back to the issues that these children are, the risk that they are posed to, or the online sexual exploitation that will be posed to. Number 1, there is the CSAM, that is the child sexual abuse materials, where we'll group them under the pornography. Then that is one thing that children are exposed to. Number 2, we are talking about live streaming. This is where children are exposed to live streaming the nude act of sexual act online, or children are exposed to sharing the nude photos online. So that's another risk that children are exposed to. Number 3, there is online grooming. And online, when I talk about online grooming, this is a process where the perpetrator on the other side of the camera or the side of online then takes the child and wins the trust of this child to an extent where this child is trust the perpetrator, so that they'll want to do everything that the perpetrators do. Another expose or other thing that affects children online is talking about sextortion. Sextortion, if I want to define it more, is about sharing your photos online, then somebody uses these photos to extort you. It's coming from the term extortion. So that we exchange these photos, then I in turn use these photos now to extort, to get an extra thing for you. Number 1, I will talk about maybe blackmailing. If you don't recruit others onto what we are doing, your siblings, then I'll share these photos with your siblings, with your school people, with your peers, with your parents. That amounts to sextortion. So there are a number of issues that children are exposed to, apart from the one that I've listed, that I think having this discussion then needs to really unpack this and help even the people who are listening now to understand then how are we going to protect children from this. Linking that to the reasons why there is that easy access. There are others that we cannot avoid, but the others that when we work with with parents and the children and share the information, then they will be able to get to understand and know then how do we want to protect ourselves as children and the parents or the caregivers to protect the children from the online abuse. One thing I would also want to add is that when you look at how children are exposed now, there are again the gaps in terms of the technical know-how of the parents, in terms of navigating the phone, or even putting the parental guidance that maybe could have been provided by the service providers. So when there's that lack of knowledge of even putting the parental guidance or parental permission in some of the gadgets, then that also exposes the children because they are free to navigate the phone and got into the site that is not allowed. Yes.
Thank you so much, Job. I want Evelyn to jump in here. She told us something very interesting, like because she does these trainings at home, that she told her parents to do monitoring of her child. and then the parent was too busy. And then what happened? Can you just tell us a little bit so that you can give context to what Job is saying?
It's very interesting that I feel sad. We are very, what would I say, reactive. And at the point where you are helping parents understand that at this particular time, yes, we are all jumping into the digital space. Yes, we all want to engage in digital learning, how we can and when we can. When you're asking parents to at least try and monitor screen time, some parents just, they don't care. As Job said, I think parents are using gadgets at this particular moment to babysit their children, which is a very wrong thing, because the normal internet, if I would say not really normal, but the ills of the internet are still happening. And actually right now they're very rampant. So this particular parent, they dismissed when I said, you know what, you guys, try as much as possible to use digital learning tools with your children. And in less than 48 hours, the child was watching pornography, and they were actually watching pornography through a game they were playing. And this is what parents also don't understand. And I think it is something that we also need to really create awareness on. The online games are very good platforms, but the chat options, those chat buttons, that is where a lot of opportunities to groom children, a lot of perpetrators are sending images and sending information to children. When we don't, as parents or educators, tell our children the difference between personal information and the difference between private information, our children are so gullible, our children are very vulnerable, and they will just give information willingly, not knowing that they are exposing themselves to a lot of insecurity. So right now, of course, like the way Zoom, I will just use the example of Zoom because at least I know about it. They had a security glitch. You find that there are very many people who don't understand what privacy settings they need to put up when they are using these platforms. And even schools that are using different learning tools like Google Classroom, they should lock at least those chat options. And parents need to right now be very, very cautious about the chatting options, because you see, you can be seated somewhere from a distance and you're seeing your child playing a game, but you don't know at the bottom of the screen what they're doing. And that is where all the evil is. That is the breeding ground of all these things. So it is very important for us to be able to know even the different kind of apps. Like my team the other day was telling me that people have just discovered House Party. It has been there since 2016. But at this particular time of the pandemic, the House Party app has been downloaded so much. Holly talked about TikTok. TikTok right now, even in the States, they're banning the government employees. Civil servants have been told not to install TikTok in their government official phones. They're telling their families not to install because there is a possibility that it is mining data from the other apps that you have on your phone. And this is the thing. And I think right now, with all these learning tools that are being pushed online, they're very good, yes. Some of them are very helpful, but I think as parents, as educators, as practitioners, we need to just take a minute before we load our information on any platform. Try and pre-screen it. Just get to check, is the information secure? Does the site have pop-ups? And that's how you know that a site is prone to malware. If you start seeing pop-ups all over the place, how can we then engage our children to know that when you get into a site, if I'm not around and you start seeing these kind of things, shut down the app, or at least report to a parent, because at least a parent or a guardian would be able to know what to do. Also creating relationships with our children, so that just in case, because sometimes our children are going to unhealthy sites knowingly, but sometimes it finds them without their knowledge. And I can give a personal experience of myself, because my 5-year-old daughter was playing some game with a child, and they ended up watching pornography. And for her, the way she explained it to us, she was very horrified, but also just in her own innocence, just telling us, I saw a man and a woman doing ABCD. She didn't know what that is, but despite the fact that I know I did not expose my child to pornography, it was exposed because the ecosystem of a child is very, very large. So at this particular point, just a parent needs to get into the computer of the child, look at the apps. I can give an example of apps that people don't know. House Party right now, I know parents really don't know about it. There's an app called Likey. there's one, I mean, everybody now knows TikTok. Our children are not on Facebook. Me and you are on Facebook. Our children are not on Facebook. They're not on Twitter. They're on Instagram. They're on Snapchat. I think they're using WhatsApp just for communication here and there. But by and large, they're on these applications where they think, if I post something within 24 hours, it will disappear. That is what they think. But you and I know better. So we need to be able to try and encourage them that one, the internet never forgets. So whatever it is that you post out there, it remains out there for anybody to use it against you. It will either build you or destroy you. Number two, parents need to be able to understand that our children know how to clear cache. So whether you think that you're this parent who can go and check what the children are doing on their browsers, children know how to clear their footprint. But then again, they're using AI. So some of them are not Googling how you and I Google. They're using artificial intelligence to speak to the computers and say what they want to browse. But then again, if you see any new application your child is using, please interrogate it. That is what is very important at this particular moment. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. And I thank you for going into the details of the apps. Before I go, because I want to Michael is a safety and reporting expert. So before I go to him, I don't know, Job and Holly, do we have any other apps that we need to flag off for the parents who are watching us? Because there are so many of them. Because I was hearing about House Party and TikTok, and you know, because it's because everybody wants to do this particular challenge and that a particular challenge. I want to do this and this, and we are putting our children in danger. So Holly and Job, do you have any other apps that you'd want us to flag up?
One called Marco Polo is another one that kids are using. But of course, the first thing it is because kids are doing it on their parents' phone, the first thing they do is download your whole contact list. So again, we're handing over our data, and whenever I talk to parents about stuff, I always say, if your child wants to download something, go to Common Sense Media, because I've found them to be internationally the most up-to-date website. And what I love about them, they go in and as soon as an app's released, they study it, but they give parents a very balanced view. They don't just say, get them off everything. They give a really balanced view of, you know, the pros and the cons, and they're really brilliant for a resource for parents to know about.
Okay, thank you. I think most of them have been mentioned. I think Evelyn has captured most of them. And for me, what stand out is the House Party that looks like something that has been invented now, but it's something that it's an old app that has been there. So House Party and TikTok, I think that's something that parents need to be on high alert on, mostly, as we also keep monitoring on the old ones like the Snapchat, the WhatsApp, that could also be used extensively. But for the on high alert, then we'll also stress on the House Party and TikTok to be more vigilant of that and learn more on how to put the stopgap measures on them, or rather how do you restrict downloading some of the applications of such? How do you monitor the use of such? Yeah, thank you.
If our participants, our attendees, if you have a question, please start sending them in. As Michael goes through, how do we one, protect, and how do we report issues to do with online? And then you can take us through the different, like, how do we report on Facebook, on Instagram, and how, like, the International Internet Watch Foundation, the link, because I think you're the only ones in East Africa who have that, we can be able to use that link. Are you able to state us, like, if I'm a child or I'm a parent, I come across this kind of content, or I'm afraid, what are the steps that can I take to ensure that I can report? And actually I'm repeating to the right person, like the law enforcers who are going to do something about it.
Okay, thank you very much, Jenny. Very interesting submissions from my colleagues in the panel. First of all, what I wanted to share I think we also, especially in the East African countries, we understand that we have a growing number of internet users, individuals who can access the internet thanks to the technology and the upgrades that we're getting from our telecommunication countries. But also, I want to think that or believe that internet access and costs are somehow low in this part of the country, or maybe Tanzania for that case. So children and youth are accessing, or the numbers of youth and children who can access the internet through different devices is growing each and every day. Now, with that brings to us a lot of opportunities and challenges, but because here we want at least to speak about the challenges that this brings to us. One of it is the abuse that happens online. And mostly this begins by cases. I don't know how much time we have, Jenny. I don't know how much time has been allocated. So how much time do I have so that I structure what?
10 minutes, Michael.
Okay. Okay. So I'll go straight maybe to the points. Then I leave the few slides that I wanted to use. So
okay, you can have 12.
Okay, thank you for the 2 additional minutes. So the challenges that we're getting mostly from the internet access is, first of all, I want to thank Evelyn for what she's doing. And this is because from a research that was done from one of our partners here in Tanzania, one Dr. Onditi, we found that children use internet, but parents and caregivers don't know about this. Some of them own SIM cards. We have like schools, all boarding schools, where there are very strict laws on access and use to mobile phones. But to our surprise, all those strict schools, children are very cheeky to sneak in phones and mostly SIM cards, which so they can sneak one phone and everybody else sneaks in a SIM card. They can put it inside a bar of soap, and during the night when you think everyone is asleep, they share in turns a phone, a smartphone that they can use to go online and do whatever they want to do. So if they want to watch porn, if they want to chat, they'll do that, and the teachers and the parents will not understand this. So, and from that, now the risks now start to come in. And one of the issues that we've been getting a lot, and the researcher proved as evidence, was grooming that is happening online because of the games that they're playing, the chats that they are having. So a lot of grooming into, which ends mostly in sexual exploitation happens online. And something else that is recently bringing a lot of numbers into our surveys is online cyberbullying, and this is happening from as low as children who are in the primary schools, and it's a challenge because from what even Job and Holly and also Evelyn can confirm is that most parents I usually want to say that live in a very different world from the children and the adolescent or the youth. So the parents are like the aliens into the children's world. So because they know nothing, or they don't know much about internet access and like the apps that you're talking about, these children are the only ones who understand how to navigate around them. So it proves a lot of challenges to parents. And now when it comes, when the worst comes to worst and the child find themselves in a corner where they cannot go back, they now start trying to find a place where they can seek help. Mostly they want first of all to go to the parent, but the parent will not understand what they're talking about. So in most of the trainings that we've been doing, first of all, we understand that if it's on Facebook or on other applications, there are opportunities to report the users or block them sometimes. but they can send a report that and report someone. But in law enforcement, for us as an organization, we developed a platform where you can report sexual exploitation material, like especially that involves children. We developed this platform together with the internet, or in collaboration with the Internet Watch Foundation. This is a UK-based organization that works across the globe, and in Africa, I think we also have a lot of portals that have been developed. So this portal, how it works is that when you see a video or a photo that portrays or purports or something to do with the child sexual exploitation, you just take the link and paste it, the URL on the portal, and the photo or the video can be taken down as fast as 3 seconds, and this will be fast. First, we have they'll first look at the video and then take it down, but also give it a serial number that if someone else tries to bring the video, the photo again on the internet, so they'll get an indication that the video that was taken down is being uploaded again in another reporting platforms for issues to do with sexual exploitation.
Michael, I think you switch off your videos because you're hanging. Your internet is not that good. Switch off your video so that we can hear you. So because we are cutting you. Yeah, now you can go on.
Okay. So I was saying that we don't have very developed reporting systems for parents and children to report, because online child and adolescent or youth safety is something that is not very common and known to even the law enforcers. But we're trying very hard to work with the police, especially the cybercrime unit, and trying to bring these subjects and topics to them so that they understand the issues to do that. So mostly what we'll do is through the National Child Helpline or through the portal that we've developed, if you get a report on a case like this one, then we work together with the cybercrime unit to address the issue if it is taking down the photo, and also prosecution and investigations can be done online through the police. But we usually ask parents and children themselves to be and during our trainings also, we usually ask them to be able to be proactive and watch for the red flags during their chats that they are doing, or from their friends that they have on Facebook and other online platforms that they use as usual, because sometimes it begins with friends, especially bullying. The report and evidence that we have is that bullying, the perpetrators of bullying are the very, very close friends that we have. So we usually train youths to understand that how to see a red flag, especially on a chat, when it's going to get to a point that maybe this is not right, then they can report that to the platform itself, if it's Facebook, Instagram, or any other platform like Twitter and other social media that they use. And if they see this is getting even worse and they're not getting help, then they can call us or go to the nearest police station and report the case.
Thank you, Michael. So as you can hear, there are different ways we can report. On Facebook, it's easy. Anybody wants to go on how to report on Facebook and on Instagram using the 3 dots. Evelyn, you go, and then Holly, you can do on Instagram, and then on TikTok and Yeah.
So first, I was going to add before Michael started that Holly mentioned a very good site called Common Sense Media. I am actually a Common Sense Media educator, and my business is a Common Sense Media school, which means that we get a lot of content, data, and tools that are already pre-screened. A day like this, we have dedicated it. We've dedicated our platform actually to pre-screening movies, videos, online games, and things that children can engage with that are safe. So that is also something that parents need to also plug into commonsensemedia.org. It's a good place to pre-screen most of your online stuff. In terms of reporting, I think on Facebook, it's very, very, very easy. When you get anything that is unhealthy, and unhealthy also depends on people's values, you can just press the 3 dots on your top right and report the user who is, report that particular unhealthy content. And then also, I feel and I believe that some of us need to also go a step further to take screenshots, because sometimes when you report, that particular content is taken down, and in case there is a case that is ongoing and people need to use that particular content as a case proceeding, as exhibit, then it does not exist anymore because it disappeared from your timeline. So before you actually report, I think it is important to take a screenshot depending on the nature of the content. If possible, obviously, in Kenya, we have quite a number of reporting agencies. Chadla in Kenya also has a platform. Total News has a platform where people can report unhealthy content so that different agencies can take up the matter. So before you actually report, because once you report that particular content disappears from your timeline, it is important to keep it as evidence so that just in case there's something that needs a follow-up, you already have that particular content with you. I think it is important for parents to also know that, and children to also know that you can actually follow those directives. Report and block, sometimes also on platforms like WhatsApp, because when you talk about Facebook, we are talking about WhatsApp, we are talking about Instagram, because that is one family. When you feel like people are bullying you and it's not something that at a particular moment you really can handle it, you can block and report that particular person. But again, as we said, sometimes you block and then depending on your jurisdiction, your jurisdiction, and depending on how fast or the gravity of your matter, it might not be picked up very quickly. So I think first having a guardian or a parent or someone who is able to help you expedite some sort of guidance, it's something that children and parents need to know. Again, when children are going onto social media platforms, I don't advocate for children who are not 13 years of age to be on any social media platform. That is one thing. And that is also something parents need to know. Even when you should be 13 years of age to be able to get a Google account. And if you're not 13 years of age, you need to use the family link, which is tagged into your parents' email, because then at least they get to monitor your whereabouts and your updoings on the internet. So parents need to first understand that social media is a very good place to be. It's a perfect place to be. But then again, when you don't teach your children about responsibility, when you don't teach your children about privacy settings, because some of them will make their profiles public, they will talk to anybody and everybody who cares. Then it becomes an issue because then they do not know. And it is not also the fault of the parent because they also do not know. So it is important for them to seek for information, read the privacy, the terms and conditions, because most of us just click next, finish. You upload an app and then it starts taking your camera, it takes your contacts, it takes everything actually, because you have allowed it to access so much information from your platforms and your phone. So I think before the age of 13, please do not have your children on any social media platform. And even as they get to that age of 13, we need to have had certain discussions about responsibility, about privacy, about digital footprint, because it is one thing for children to know that pornography and unhealthy content happens online, but it's also another thing to find your child trending on because they posted a nude photo, and once they press send, they do not have control over that content anymore. So I think parents right now at this particular time, where we feel like digital learning has become the in thing, where we feel like a platform like this where we can see each other, we can communicate, because we are on a lockdown, we still need to have a sense of social life. I think before we actually embark on that journey, we need to be able to just get informed, get to know the platforms I'm using. Are they safe? What is the kind of data they're asking of me? What is the privacy settings that I will need to be able to ensure that myself and my children are protected from? And also one very important thing that I think we need to also discuss is the screen time. I mean, the amount of time that we are also allowing our children to spend online, because different ages stipulate different times. Any child below 5 years old needs to be on the internet for 30 minutes a day, and that should be supervised screen time. Any child between age of 5 to around 9 years old, they can have 1.5 hours, and then balance between education and balance it between entertainment, because you might leave them doing Khan Academy, then you find them playing Roblox, because it's a very swift change. A child who's above 12 years old, above 10 and 12 years old, you can give them around 2 hours, but again, make sure that it is balanced screen time with healthy breaks, and then put rules like do not go with portable devices to your bedrooms, because again, then you don't know what they're doing there. So if it is time for screen, let the screens be in a common area where if I walk in, I can see from where I am what exactly you're doing. So such kind of screen time rules and screen time zones, we need to be able to apply them at home. I keep telling parents all the time and they laugh at me, and I tell them places like the toilet, why are you going with your phone to the toilet? There are like 8,000 germs right now, then add coronavirus. I mean, does it make sense? So let's create tech-free zones, because also this time we might be talking a lot about safety, then we forget that even at home, people can become disconnected because of these gadgets. So, and we need to really, really take care of that. Yeah.
A couple of things I wanted to bring people's attentions to. So you asked about the Instagram, and Evelyn really talked about it, but just with Instagram, you just go onto the report button. Is it spam or is it inappropriate? So you say inappropriate, then it goes, is it nudity or sexually? And so it's got the different categories. So you just keep following the bouncing ball basically. So it is very easy to do. But a couple of things that I just wanted to bring up was there are also ghost apps, which one of them in particular looks like a calculator, and children will download that, and it's like a vault or a safe. And so kids put in all of their nudes that they were sent and things like that. So a parent would just look at their phone and just think, oh, my child must be really smart because they've got 2 calculators. But it is in fact a vault. So parents need to be aware of that. And the other thing I'd like to really emphasize is for parents not to use technology as a punishment, because if children, as adults, we think of the real world and cyberspace. We think of it as 2 separate places because we didn't grow up with it. Well, you're all a lot younger than me, but children, it's all one place. So if parents say, clean your room, or I'll take your iPad away, or stop fighting with your brother or sister, or you're not going on the computer, if kids see inappropriate content, they are not going to tell a parent because they think the parent will take it away. So for parents not to use technology as punishments, like Evelyn said, have the conversations with children and tell them that you can tell me anything. What I teach kids is if you see something and you're on an iPad, to flip it over and then go and show the adult, because of the thing that I saw on Monday, I'm still having flashbacks and nightmares about what I saw. And I'm a 50-year-old adult that's been talking about this for a very long time. I can't imagine if a child had seen what I had saw, that will scar them for a very long time. But if adults don't see it, Evelyn talked before about her child, saw something, but if she didn't know if kids say, oh, I saw 2 people with no clothes on, yeah, that's not what children saw. They actually need to see what the child saw. If it's a device, if it's a laptop, to close the lid, but still show an adult. Because today is Friday, it's Friday night here in Western Australia, but I still, in the middle of the day, just burst out crying with what I saw. And so if children are seeing that sort of stuff and they're crying, parents aren't going to know why their child's crying or why their child has had, a change in their behavior and things like that. So in the program that I teach, we teach kids to, you can tell me anything, and nothing that you'll ever tell me will stop me loving you, and I won't take the device away. We'll work through it together. So those are the messages that I really want parents to take away from this.
Thank you so much, Holly. So for me, Michael and Job, like as we're closing, I want you to tell the people what are the nitty-gritties of how do you identify when a child is being online abused, you know, because like any other abuse, there are ways you can be able to find out why my child is being abused online. So Michael and Job, as you go down, Michael, Job, and then Evelyn, and then you finish up with Holly. How can you know that a child is being abused, especially now, because every child, especially if you have access to the internet and a laptop, you are going online to teach your child. So how can I know that my child is being abused online? Michael.
Thank you very much. I think you know a child is being abused, and there are very frequent things that your child likes to do. And one of the most things that we look out is withdrawal and some signs of a child who is being stressed out, because we know children like devices, but you might notice a child being withdrawn and sometimes being stressed. And you can also notice this because like Evelyn said, if you've not put like some house rules on use of devices, most of our youth will try to use or like using their devices, the tablets and the phones or computers in their bedrooms. So if it's time to eat, it's time for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and this child does not want to come out, so it's very easy to notice that there's something wrong. And like Holly said, it might be very difficult for us parents to understand or to notice if we are not friends with our children, and if we don't understand how they use these devices and where they go, and if you don't have that tendency of being close to your child and understanding what apps they like using and so on. So it may be very difficult, but most of the signs and the easiest signs to watch for are a child being withdrawn, being stressed out, and doing things that they are not used to do. A change of behavior is another thing. Maybe they want to stay alone for some time, and you know this is not they are being quiet, and you know that these children this child is not a quiet child. So that's the part or the sign that if you see your child with, you need to intervene and try to talk them calmly and understand what has happened to them. And most children usually open up, especially the youth, and they'll start by the word, "I'm sorry. I remember you told me not to do this. I did this, and somebody did this to me. Or yesterday I posted a photo. I need photos. Somebody asked, I was chatting with someone, and this person asked me to send them a nude photo, and I did that. And I remember you told me not to do that," and so on and so forth. So the easiest signs to look for are a child who is withdrawn, and we know most children and youth are very active, and with their devices, it's very easy to understand that something is wrong. And like I said before, if parents are not very much involved with the social, the internet accessibility life of the devices their children and the youth use, it's very difficult to be able to, because for us, we usually believe that there are two lives that we live in. One is the normal life that we see each other, and the virtual life that we live in on the internet and in the cyberspace. So parents and caregivers need to understand the other life that is we live in the cyberspace, and how it works, how we greet people, because there's this language that youth use on the cyber space and on internet that very few adults will understand. They use acronyms for speaking, so they can a child and a youth can chat with the colleague or a friend, and they can chat on a subject like maybe sex, ask for sex, and even if the parent grabs the phone, they will not understand the language. Maybe I'm with dad here, so they'll use some acronyms, or I want to do this. Can you now switch off the camera, and so on. So these are the languages that if a parent understands, it's easy to know how it started and how it ended with my child being stressed, being withdrawn, and being maybe cyber bullied on the internet. So for us, we usually try to ask parents to be proactive and go and learn about these things and understand very well how this cyber life is lived with everyone else, especially the youth. Then it's easy for them to intervene and help. And mostly, if the parent thinks that they need help, they should also, we ask them to find a counseling psychologist who can help them out, both the parent and the child who is the victim of a cyberbullying case or online exploitation.
How can you identify when a child who has been abused? Because probably they will not tell you, but as a parent or from your experience, how do you identify a child who has been abused?
Mostly, one of the cases is the children first of all are very honest. That's one thing that we should understand. And one very major sign is when they do something that they were not supposed to do, they usually regret about it. So they might break down, start crying. They want to be alone, and mostly is crying. And if you ask them, some of them will not speak because of the regret that is going through them. So I understand this question is about a child who is able to use the internet, but the children who are very young and maybe they were not using the internet, maybe the phone, or they were abused, like a person abused them and posted that image or video on the internet. It's very difficult. So I'm talking about children who are at the age of 5 and below. It's not very easy for them or you to notice that somebody had abused them. That's why institutions like Childline Kenya, Child Helpline Tanzania comes in, where we need the support of the public to understand this. But for children who are above that age, who can use the phones and everything, it's very, most of them usually regret what they were doing, and they notice that after they've already done it, because mostly when they are like in a chat, these perpetrators are very, very clever, and they know what they are doing, because it's not the first time they'll be doing this. So they know how to navigate through a child's mind until they get what they want. And after that, so the threats come in, and usually the perpetrators usually threatens the children that if you don't do, like if they told them to, so if, take an example, it's a girl or a boy who was told maybe, take off your shirt, oh, I like that. Then when they send this photo and they say they are told to do something else, and they refuse to do it, then this perpetrator will threaten the child, who usually want to call the victim. And that's when you see a child being regretting of what they did and breaking down, and the stress comes in. So if you find a child in this situation, it's very easy for the child to take you back through what they've been doing, the chatting, how it started. So that's how you can recognize a child who has been abused online.
To ask the same question to Job and then Evelyn.
Hello.
Go ahead, Job.
Yes, thank you. Before, I think Michael has elaborately talked about some of the signs. And what I just wanted to add is that some of these signs, they are a bit difficult. They how to differentiate them from a child who is in adolescent stage. Something like being withdrawal or being antisocial, change of the languages that is being used. So it's very important for the parents to know very keenly, to identify, to differentiate between the two signs of a child who is in adolescent stage and a child who is being abused. So one thing that I want to add also is that the good rapport or the social relationship that the parent has with the child will be able to open up so that when a child has a problem or experience unusual pictures on the internet, have received a friend request, for example, from somebody who is not known to them, then they're able to report. If they get information that they're not sure about, then they're able to share. Then after sharing, then you'll be able to move closely and build that rapport to work with the children. Having said that, there's something I think I wanted to add to what Evelyn talked about. What are some of the opportunities we have as we wind up? I was looking at now children are learning online, their TV screens that are running learning materials that they are going through. So I was looking at an opportunity. How do we, as stakeholders, during the commercial breaks, some of these commercial breaks, how do we work with these people running this? Then do we throw in some of the messages that communicate to parents, communicate to children on matters of online child protection and online child sexual exploitation? So that's something I think we need to explore. Number two, then parents setting ground rules. I know Evelyn had alluded to this and parents were not taking it seriously. But setting out ground rules on the age limits on how long do you stay online, how long do you stay on a screen, excuse, that will also be able to really help parents to curb and manage to help the children be protected. And lastly, it's about educating parents. It's about constant education of parents on some of the issues that we're talking about that concerns online protection and how to go about them. Having said that, one last thing I would like to mention is there are some risky behaviors that we always talk about when we engage with children. Number one is accepting friend requests from unknown people. Number two, sending friend requests from unknown people. And this was very much clear during our survey that we did. It came out that due to peer pressure, that people want to see how many friends do you have in Instagram, how many friends do you have in Facebook. So they will go on to send friend requests to strangers that they don't even know. And that is when now they're able to be abused. So that's one risky behavior. Number two is going out to meet a stranger that you met online, but now going out to meet a stranger that you've talked and now you've agreed online, then now you want to meet physically. This is something again that we are talking about, telling children that if you were to go to meet somebody, a stranger, then you report this to your parent or be accompanied by an adult. Many times this has happened even to adults, those who have met boyfriend and girlfriends online. You met somebody on Facebook, you realize that it's not the same picture that you are seeing on Facebook and you take off. So the same happens to children too. And children, are they able to take off? Are they able to see is the same person that they are seeing online, is the same person that they are seeing physically? So that also exposes them to abuse. So those are some of the risky behaviors that we tend to tell children, and also letting parents know where your child is going when you've not sent this child out for something. At what time is the child supposed to go out? Some of them would want to go out when the parent leaves home, then they've planned to move. Then is there somebody remaining behind to monitor where this child is going? So those are some of the things I wanted to add to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Job. Evelyn?
I wanted to first ask, does this count as our parting shot, or we are still?
No.
Okay, cool. So I think I will just maybe add on to what has not been mentioned when it comes to identifying a child who has been abused. Sometimes, depending on the character of a child, they might become a bit vulgar. Their language changes, and they tend to be more aggressive because they feel like now they need to be able to still defend themselves online. So that character and that behavior is translated offline. I've seen several children who are self-harming. It is a part of abuse, so they want to be able to cope with the pain that they're feeling, and they do not have any outlet, so they start, harming themselves. And one of the ways is just cutting. And so when you start realizing maybe your child had a certain dress code, and now even when it is so hot outside, they insist on wearing very long sleeved clothes. They feel that their language is becoming a bit weird, not how they speak. I think that is a point of concern where parents need to start investigating exactly what is happening in the life of that child. One of the other things that I've seen with very many children is anxiety. The anxiety actually becomes progressive. Children start having stomach aches, they start having headaches, they start feeling they cannot breathe. So I think we need to start educating ourselves on identifying triggers of anxiety, how we can tell that our children are actually not feeling unwell, but what they're exhibiting as symptoms of anxiety. I think also some children, and this is something that they've also told me, the same way that Job said, that the children who start lying and becoming elusive with the truth, so some children have been abused online. They decide, I'm going to retaliate by either being aggressive towards the other person. And suddenly when things are getting out of hand, they start becoming liars. And so I think for parents, they really need to start identifying these things, because it starts with just lying about small things. They want to go out of the house without permission. They want to hide. When you find a child on their phone and immediately they see you, they hide the screen from you. I think those are the things that parents need to start seeing as symptoms and addressing them as they come, because the minute you keep procrastinating them, you're pushing the envelope, and of course the children will also push their boundaries with you. And I think one last one is also we start seeing children who are abused online. Some of them become bullies. and we are very sensitive, and I keep saying we are very sensitive sometimes to care for the victim, but the perpetrator also needs help, because they're obviously bullying because it is a cry for help. It is a sign of some deficit within themselves. And I think one of the things that in these particular cases where I deal with perpetrators and the victims themselves, trying to just help, first getting the child to understand self-affirmation. I think these are things when we are dealing with mental health and when we are dealing with such kind of sensitive issues, when our children are not affirming themselves, they want to look for affirmation in all the wrong places. And having a place like when you have an Instagram account and you feel like I posted a photo today, it had 1,000 likes. I posted a photo like 2 minutes later, it only had 2 likes. What is wrong with me? They start feeling like the problem is them. And that is not the case normally. So I think within the home, and this is a very good time, as people have been forced to stay in the family setups, we need to start affirming ourselves. First and foremost, teaching your child to affirm themselves. They wake up in the morning, they say, I am brave, I am smart, I am kind, and that's the way it's supposed to be. Just the way everybody has different fingerprints. The person I'm supposed to be satisfied with that person. And then as parents, as guardians, as caregivers, we need to be able to affirm our children. Tell your child that they're brave. Tell their child that they're beautiful. Tell your children that the way they are is just how God made them, and they need to be able to appreciate themselves, because when they don't appreciate themselves, then they start looking for affirmation in all the wrong places. When they're being groomed and someone is telling them, oh, your hair really looks nice, and at home nobody told you your hair really looks nice, they start believing those other people, and maybe those other people don't have the best interest at heart. So just getting to have very intentional conversations as well. And I know parents fear having intentional conversations, because then our children start saying, oh, you're being too tough on me. Love sometimes is very tough, and children need to be able to acknowledge that. But then just being able to be the final word, or at least the first word. Because I realize Holly mentioned that sometimes when children are being bullied, for instance, they don't go to their parents, they go to their peers. But then again, that peer might be the person who's bullying them. So it doesn't really help. It actually aggravates the situation. So I think parents need to stop fearing, having conversations about sex. Job talked about the difference between withdrawal from a teenager and someone who has been abused online. Those are very different conversations. And you can actually realize that a child is either going through puberty, they need to have certain conversations. And if the parent is not going to be the person to have that conversation, they will Google. And Google doesn't share your value system. So I think first things first, because the issue of online safety starts with the parent. The parent is the one who provides all these avenues, you know. The parent is the one who also extends the child to the ecosystem. So the parent needs to be able to begin from a place of creating values. If your child doesn't know what values are, I will just simply put it as values are the behaviors that are important to you. That is as simple as you can explain it to a 2-year-old, to a 3-year-old, to a 5-year-old. If they need to start developing value systems, and as a family, come up with a family value. I mean, what the family values that you people have. Explain to your children why those family values are important, because when they go online, they meet all people from all walks of life, and if they are not grounded on values, then they don't know where to draw the boundaries. So that is one thing. And also, let's affirm our children as much as possible. Let's affirm them, not sugarcoating them, not making them feel good, but affirm your children as much as possible, so that when they go online, they don't start seeking affirmation from the wrong people, because then they also don't know what is right from what is wrong. And then have these difficult conversations, even if they're hard. I mean, I had to have a conversation about sex with my 5-year-old, but I had to be creative. I created a song around it, and we sang a song about private parts, and I showed her what private parts are and who is not supposed to see and touch your private parts. And if such a thing happens, what can we do? But because she loves songs, and at her level, that is the only way we can communicate in a way that she can understand, I had to be as creative as possible. But even when you have teenagers, don't make the conversation look like you're about to invest in the stock market and you really didn't know how to invest in the stock market. The thing is, I think we are failing as parents to listen to our children. We need to be able to just first listen to them, and then look for comfortable and ideal situations to talk to them. And the internet has very good resources actually that will help even come up with props. If you feel like, you know, just talking is really hard, become as creative as possible to have those very difficult conversations. But when it is time to say no, stick to the no, because I think as parents right now, we are trying to juggle between work, we are trying to juggle between the homeschooling, self-care, and all these things. You end up just saying, you know what, just go watch, and when they're watching, you go and take a nap, then you don't know what they're doing. So I think it is a space where we need to learn a lot. It's a space where we need to really pay attention. And when you don't know, just say you don't know, and Google be your friend at that particular moment. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Evelyn. Holly, so you were saying, and then your last words. But Evelyn, there was a question here. I think you should answer it before we go to Holly. Someone is asking. You say that because kids are very smart in deleting their history, their search history, what can parents do to review so that they can be able to know that their children visited these pages? You say that. So these are questions from someone, I think, on YouTube who is asking that question.
Okay, so one of the things is that parents, you cannot become a helicopter parent, and I don't advise people to become helicopter parents. For me, the approach that really works, and it is a long and tedious approach, it is that we need to start having very deliberate conversations with our children. And one of the ways is to talk about digital footprint, because when you find that your child is hiding what they're searching, that's a problem right there. So we need to be able to tell them, number one, the internet never forgets. So even if they don't want you to see, someone else is seeing it. And you know, the way explaining to them how different browsers work. I mean, it's Google, it is trying to generate search engines for you. It will request and suggest certain platforms for you. If you're using, for instance, a search engine and you've logged into your email, I definitely can see what you've been searching from the email perspective. But then again, I think for a parent to be able to benefit from having their children not hide things is just be open with them. Try not to overreact when your children are seeing certain things, because sometimes they're watching not because they wanted. Someone sent it to them accidentally. They clicked on it, then you find them watching porn, then you overreact, and that's how they decide not to start telling you what they're doing. So have conversations about how the internet never forgets. That is one thing that I tell children, and I also tell parents that it's something that you need to be able to appreciate. Number two, talk about values. Then talk about the ecosystem, because your child might not be using your particular home gadget to do anything malicious, but the ecosystem of that child is very large. They will go outside, they will meet friends, they will go to school, they will use other people's gadgets, and they will still be able to access what you think is unhealthy or not healthy for them. So I think for me, it's having this holistic conversation with the parents and with the children in such a way that they need to understand that what you see with your eyes goes to your heart, and what goes into your heart, it goes to your hands. And sometimes you might not be able to control your actions because you've already put it in your head, and what you've already seen is in your mind. So having very deliberate conversations, this is about being very deliberate. I know a friend of mine found their children watching porn. They sat and they decided, you know what, you're 17 years of age, I cannot run away from this. Let's watch it and let's discuss what it means for you. But that parent was really terrified inside. But then, you know what, if you're not going to be the person who tells your children that the pornography actually exists, they will find it out anyway. And you don't know what kind of activities they will do at the event when they find it out. So it is a catch-22 kind of situation. But then I think we need to be very deliberate about it. Tell your children not to hide. It's like a child who has eaten sugar and then they leave the crumbs all over their face, and you can tell, and they'll tell you they did not eat the sugar. The internet never forgets. So that is one thing that parents need to keep singing to their children. And even though you think that you've posted something on Snapchat and after 24 hours it has disappeared, it goes somewhere on a server. That is what they need to understand. Whether you delete it or not, it is still on the internet. So I think that parent I hope they don't feel like they need to really monitor their children like a hawk, because that is not a sustainable endeavor. It is not. I hope I have answered the question.
So thank you so much, Evelyn. Holly, as you finish up, and so one, what can you tell parents? This has been projected is going to go on for the next 2-3 months. So a minimum, like if China started in January and they're still on lockdown, and we are starting our lockdown, we have another 2 or 3 months to go. So this means that children are going to be online so many times, so much. So what is your last word? What can you tell parents? What measures can they take during this time to safeguard their children? And also not just as what Evelyn said, to helicopter them so that they can use these platforms to learn.
Before I do that, I just want to cover on 3 quick things. First of all, I want to talk about the grooming, and it can be very innocent. It can be somebody talking about, send me a picture of your feet, which is very, and then it builds on from there. So people that groom children are very skilled at what they do. So they'll end up, show me pictures of your feet. And then what we're finding in Australia, I'm hearing lots of stories how people that are preying on children are setting up Google, Amazon wish list accounts. So, send a picture of your feet and you get $50. Take your top off and you're going to get $100. And so, if children are getting, have gifts and things that the parent didn't buy, that could be also an indicator. And one thing that I wanted to expand on from what Evelyn said about the bullying might be an example. And again, I don't know if it's happening in East Africa, but here in Australia, we are seeing child-to-child sexual abuse escalating off the charts because kids are witnessing porn and then acting it on other children. And so sexualized behavior or sexualized play when children have got, their dollies and their teddies and that's, not age appropriate and things like that. So those are all, other indicators. The child-to-child sexual abuse, nobody's talking about this. And, we need to, I'm having reports all the time on my Facebook page of parents that report the incidents because they happen at school. They report it to schools and schools aren't dealing with it. They're either saying, oh, that couldn't happen because we supervise the children, or that's totally normal for children of that age. And we're not just talking about you show me yours, I'll show you mine. We're talking about either digital penetration or oral sex. So, or they're just, not doing anything about it. So, these are really confronting conversations that we have to have. But, my last message for parents is, to have, just like Evelyn said, have these conversations with children. There are some fantastic resources on the internet. I think there's about 6 books that actually help parents talk about pornography. I've written a couple, but there are other ones available. You know, it doesn't have to be uncomfortable. And if you're too scared to say it face to face, reading a children's book where you're side by side or not actually looking at your child, and if you're given the words to say, then you can't mess it up. But we need parents to be their children's Google, because, you know, when I was a child, I looked up sex in a dictionary. If kids look up sex now, heaven help them.
Thank you, Holly. Last word, Evelyn, Job, and Michael.
Okay, I think for me, my last parting shot will be that security starts with you and you and you and you only. By the time you are planning to open up the internet to your children, at least try and have objectives for it. If you're going to engage on any platform, at least try and have reasonable objectives. But then do not be scared of confronting and dealing with whatever would happen, because nobody knows how fast and how wide the internet can spread for their children. So when you do open yourself for the internet, be ready. And I think parents need, at this particular moment, need to have a very good landing platforms where they can also even talk to other parents and, you know, debate on situations that have come up, because right now we are having to talk about very uncomfortable conversations with children at a very early age. But then again, we should not fear about the dangers of the internet, because I think I've seen very many people fearing to introduce the internet to their children because of all the things that they feel are evil. But at this particular time, the internet is an essential commodity for us. So let's also celebrate that our children can become content creators, they can become engineers, all the things that their future holds, because their jobs don't exist. They have an opportunity to research that. Let them learn about things that they don't learn in school. I'm introducing my children to SDGs because I don't think they learn that in school. And when we're doing things like environmental, we go and we look for ways to keep our environment safe. When we are watching Nat Geo, we think about SDGs in a variety of things that are in our surrounding. So I think let's first stop getting scared. We will engage situations as they come. Right now, let's engage our children in harnessing technology. Let them try and code, and just code small things, and they can perpetually grow into coding big things. Use platforms like Scratch, because it's very easy, and as they progress, you will get more complicated places to code. Let them learn about artificial intelligence. I think for us right now, we have an opportunity, even as I believe as an African continent where we are called third world countries, we have an opportunity right now to leverage ourselves with first world countries because of the internet. It has flattened that barrier. So I think for me, my closing statement would be, don't fear to engage. We have amazing panelists here who can help you when there's uncertainty, when things happen online. But then again, just allow your children to explore the internet safely. Continue talking to them about being safe and not overspending the time that they use there. Yeah.
Thank you, Evelyn. Job, your parting shot.
Thank you. I would follow up with what my colleague has said. I would urge parents, let's step up into our responsibilities. It's not all about the provision of the food and all other necessities. The security and well-being of our children is also very important. So let's step up. Let's harvest what is good for us or what is good for the children from the internet, and help them identify what is not good for them and how to help protect them. Also, as parents, let's look for information. Let's be ahead of our children. If there is something, then let's research and let's know what is going on. If you're using an app in your phone, understand more about that app so that you're able to know when do you want to prevent the child, which sites are you able to stop the child from accessing. So let's step up and harvest what is good for the children. The internet is with us here. It's never going to go away. it will keep on improving and changing day by day. So let's step up and let's protect our children. Number two, it's very important for us to understand that child protection or protecting children online starts with the parents. They're the people who introduce the children, for example, into these gadgets. Though some of them access the gadgets from outside the house or outside the compound. But largely, if you see a child with a phone that you did not facilitate buying that phone, they need to be very strong and ask, then why did you get this? What intention do you have with it that you would not have discussed with me that if it was important, then I would have helped you also to access the phone. So that would be my part in short. And let's keep children safe. Thank you.
Michael?
Thank you very much. As part of the panel, I was also learning a lot from my panelists here, because I think if I'm not mistaken, all of us are parents, and as usual, we learn from each other. For me, my parting shot will be, it's a very layman's terminology. Parents should be friends to their children. That's why it begins, because it's one thing to be a parent and it's another thing to be a friend to your child. So you can be a very good parent. You have very many children or very good children, but what you should ask yourself is, are you a friend to your child? And mostly what we usually use as a scale is, before you even go to see what friends your child has on any social media platform, ask yourself, do you know the friends of your child physically? Do you know who are their friends at school? And likewise, does your child know your friends and their likes and things that you don't like, and so on? So being a friend to your child will open a lot of opportunities for you to be able to discuss any other topic that you want to do, or to discuss. Like Evelyn said, you can discuss about everything. And sometimes you can begin from a very minor topic of anything, from a program that you watched on TV, and slowly you come and discuss something that maybe you thought your child might not be comfortable discussing. So it begins with parents being friends with their children. And like Job rightfully said, parents should try to be a step ahead of, which sometimes is very difficult. I know it's very difficult. It's, parents and youth in issues to do with online and cyberspace is like a thief and a police. So when the police invents a strategy to tackle an issue that has happened, or to tackle a problem in the society that is being done by the thieves will invent another innovative way to go around it. So youth will always find a way to go around that, but that will be handled if the parent is always a friend to that child. But also something that is very important, seek professional advice whenever you think that you need advice on to do with safety of your child, and on the use of the internet. And also, if you don't have maybe time to go and find for a professional expert to do this, you can always Google, and there are so many good materials online that you can read about how your child can be safe online, because we cannot deny children going online to learn or to use the cyberspace. So parents should be a step ahead, be proactive, learn how to protect their children, and also, I still insist, parents should be very, very good friends of their children. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Michael. I understand as this conversation was going on, someone heard and they have already started taking action. Evelyn is telling me someone was listening to this conversation and they have taken action. A child actually was listening and they have installed, even Evelyn, tell us more.
So big up to one of my actually students. His name is Mashari Andegwa. The mom tells me we are listening. Just a minute. We are listening to the webinar, and Masharia heard about TikTok, and on his own volition, he has deleted it. So for me, I just want to, she says, oh, thank you so much I don't know how to thank you. For me, this is my thank you. I mean, I think a platform like this gives us an opportunity also to have children introspect, and it is an important thing for them to actually do it out of their own volition, because then probably he gets to realize that I was going to do something that I probably shouldn't be doing at all. So Bashari and Degwa, thank you so much for taking that initiative. And I hope that you're going to get platforms that actually help communicate and interact with your friends socially. TikTok is not one of them. Yeah, for me, that was it. That is so encouraging, actually.
Well done,
I
Evelyn.
know, Holly. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Asante.
Nice
That
feedback.
one child was worth having this webinar. So
Yeah.
I'm seeing.
We'll ask our friends to also do the same.
Yes, and everybody else who's listening. So
Mm-hmm.
so thank you so much. For those ones wondering about the recording, it's live on YouTube, so you can go to the Mtoto News YouTube channel and you will find the recording of the, actually have done a number of webinars. You will find plus this one. Ask questions and I'll make sure that I direct these questions to these panelists here. So if you ask a question whatever time, even if after this recording, I'll make sure if it's any of them will come and answer the questions. So key points that from so far, let us be our children's Google. That for me is a takeaway. So because most of the time we tell our children, go Google it, but let us be our children's Google. That's a key one. Security starts with us, okay? We cannot delegate security to Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. Security starts with us. We're the first line of defense on online child protection, especially now. Don't install apps for your children that you know that's going to harm me. For me, my children, even my daughter, right now, because she has to use email, but whenever she signs up, I have to know, and then I tell her, did you sign up your email? She goes like, how did you know? Because there's the amazing tools like Family Link, and Facebook has another tool that if your child goes online, you can be able to monitor what they are doing. Facebook has if you go to our Facebook page later on, we are going to upload some of these tools on our Facebook and our Instagram and probably on YouTube later. We are going to install we are going to share some of these links. The other one that I had, don't fear to engage your child. Do not fear to engage your child. It can be fearful, but don't fear. Talk to them about some of these challenges so that they can be able to know. Parents need to step up. Do not delegate parenting to apps or to gadgets. You are a parent. You are the only parent that child will ever have. And then let's look for information. Don't let your children be 2 steps ahead of you in terms of things. Let's be your child's first line of defense. Let them know when they're coming to talk to you about TikTok, you already know about TikTok. If they're coming to talk to you about it, you already know about that. And they're like, oh yeah, I know about it. It's not very fun. I've already been on it. Talk to them as if they already know about all this. Be your child's friend so that they can be very easy to come to tell you when they are being abused or when they ask you for advice. So thank you so much for joining us. And those also are joining us on YouTube, we really, really appreciate you taking your time and for engaging us. Look out for the next webinar next week. We're going to have 2 more webinars next week. We are going to be sharing more details in the coming times. Thank you, our panelists. Thank you so much, Holly. I know it's quite late and you need to go sleep. Evelyn, I know mommyhood is calling forth. Thank you guys. Job, thank you for coming out of your meeting. And Michael, I know you wanted to go swimming because you guys are still not on lockdown like the rest of the world.
Yes, of course.
So you can go swim while you still have freedom. So the rest of us can go swim.
I think so.
Yes, yeah. So thank you so much. Bye-bye and God bless you.
Thank you for allowing us to make new friends. Thank you. I've met new friends now. Thank you, Jenny.
Michael, am I still your friend?
We'll talk about that later.
Okay, thank you guys and keep safe.
Bye.
Bye.
Being part of you.
Wash your hands, guys.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
And we kept distance.
Yeah, bye.
Social distance.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.